This substance is very, very important. And if you have a high level of this substance in your system, then it's wise to reduce it. And we measure nitrotyrosine in everyone that comes to our clinic for CCSVI, and some of you will have been and wondered what the hell we were doing. But we're trying to pick up this, which could potentially be an early warning system that your immune system is too active. It's a stable biomarker. Really, probably only let these levels go up in the presence of owners, although there's some debate about that. And it's measurable in the CSF, but doing a lumbar puncture every time you come to the central health clinic is not something we intend to do. Interestingly, there are studies where healthy controls had serial lumbar punctures done. They were in Japan, and they probably was part of a game show. Doing a lumbar puncture if you walk across and eat some cockroaches or that. About unfair. So anyway, the natural thing to do was to develop a blood test, and there are quite a lot of studies where they do blood tests, but nobody has actually taken this and developed a clinical test, and I can see why, because it's a lot of work. We're 4 years into it. We developed the test in our lab in Glasgow, and it's the first available test in the world. It will not mean they're widely available yet until we've done some work on it. There are some studies to show that this is a valid test, but we still have to work on it. Low-dose naltrexone, LDN, the thing that started me off on this journey all those years ago, is a very, very interesting drug. It's an opiate antagonist, so it's used in high doses of naltrexone, 50 to 200 milligrams. It blocks heroin, and it's got a license for heroin addiction, and it's got a license in America for alcohol dependence. It causes an increase in endorphins in the low doses because it will bind to the opiate receptors, and your body will respond to that by pumping out more endorphins. Up to a point, when you get to a certain dose, there's no way, all the receptors are full, and there's no way for that increase in endorphin to go. So initially it can make you feel quite good. It has immune modulating effects, and it's been used clinically for 25 years now, first by Dr. Bahari in New York, and subsequently it's still a minority sport, but it's been used in MS for quite a long time. And the drug has been around for, it was licensed 26 years ago, so it's been in general use for over 26 years. So that's why I'm pretty confident about the side effect profile that has been very low. 2 years ago, a very interesting thing happened. Matt Hutchison at Colorado University discovered that not only did it work on the opiate receptors, because I must say I was always a bit dubious of this. I thought, you know, your endorphins go up for lots of reasons. It doesn't necessarily go up when you eat chocolate. You know, it doesn't necessarily help you with autoimmunity. So is it just the endorphins? It's such a powerful drug. I was doubtful. And it's a racemic mix. In other words, there's right and left-handed molecules that look exactly the same. They're the mirror image of each other. And what they found is that both sides of the drug were having an activity. There was a dual activity. One was the opiate blockade, and the other was the immune modulation. And if you can get your head around that picture there, that shows what would be a racemic mix. That's not naltrexone, by the way, it's just the best picture I could find of right and left-handed molecules, the mirror image of each other, but they're different shapes, so they can attach to different receptors. And the right-handed one attaches to the opiate receptor, the left-handed one directly attaches to one of the immune receptors. The opiate antagonist part lasts 4 to 6 hours, so if someone, we titrate people up to a certain dose and then they hit blockade, they have 4 to 6 hours of feeling pretty bad, and then the drug leaves them. And we advise them to reduce the dose the next day, and then we can get to the dose that suits them. So that increase in endorphins has been shown, and I'm sure it has some impact, but not as big an impact as the left-handed side, which is the immune modulated side. And it attaches to this very interesting surveillance. Our body has a surveillance radar looking for trouble, it's looking for invasion, it's looking for foreign invaders. And one of the first and most important receptors are called the toll-like receptors. Toll, T-O-L-L, is German for weird, because fruit flies that don't have toll receptors look weird. I think all fruit flies look weird, but the Germans can tell them apart. So there's about 13 of these toll-like receptors, but toll-like 4 is one of the ones that's been studied best, and interestingly, that's where saturated fat connects. That's why saturated fat can trigger your immune system, because the part of the bacteria that triggers toll-like 4 is actually a saturated fat. So saturated fat in the diet can do that. And I'm not saying don't eat saturated fat, because a small amount of immune activity, the getting the balance is the important thing. You want your immune system to be able to defend you, you don't want it to be overactive. But LDN works directly on that toll-like receptor and acts as an immune modulator, and it's not an immune booster at all, although that's been popular out there on the internet. It's not an immune booster, it actually reduces the activity of the immune system and modulates it and reduces inflammation. And we start with low doses, about 1 milligram, and we titrate up until we get to a dose that is effective, and sometimes it is 1 milligram and sometimes it's 10 milligrams. And so the range we've got is between 0.5 and 25 at the moment. Some people, everyone's individually different. So opiate blockade limits how high we can go, so unfortunately we're stuck with this mixture. And one of the universities, I think it's Colorado, they've split the drug and they've now got left-handed, and that left-handed naltrexone could be the most effective immune modulating drug we ever have, because most drugs, which Gianfranco quite rightly said, have horrible side effects. You know, we tend to take a sledgehammer to the immune system and go, sorry about that, but that's the best we can do. And in this case, this is more like a screwdriver, just modulating it, just trying to get the balance right. And the longer people are on this drug, the better it seems to work. Previously, and it's just through experience, we've got hundreds and hundreds of people, and there's about 600 people in treatment. This is a very effective drug, and it's part of the reason that I'm convinced that there is a mixture now. It's not just it's all due to the veins. This wouldn't work on the veins. There's no way we can, no mechanism we can say that this works in the veins, and this works very well. And what we expect people to get with this drug, and I say to people when they go for CCSVI treatment, you would expect that you may well have a reduction in fatigue and improvement in cognitive functioning, you get rid of your brain fog and possibly you feel warmer. With LDN, the three things that we say to people are, we expect you to have increased energy, less fatigue, cognitively clearer, and possibly bladder improvement. So it's a predictable thing, and we don't give up now. We keep going with the doses until we hit blockade, and then there are just some people that this will work for, but it's a small percentage. So we have this new paradigm, CCSVI, and I think those of us with any sense are going to embrace that, find out about that, and maximise it. If I was you, as a patient with MS, I would be delighted not to just have one specialty looking at me, not just to have neurologists looking at you through a very narrow lens that just seems to see one thing, but to also have vascular surgeons, interventional radiologists, cardiologists, and most importantly of all, GPs, looking at your disease from a different angle and actually beginning to think mechanically about it and thinking about the physiology and what's wrong and how do we fix it. And it might be that we can't fix it, but it might be that we can treat this in such a way that it becomes a very manageable condition and that we can limit the progression of it, that we can actually make huge strides with both MS and with several other neuroimmune diseases and neurological conditions. So I think that what we've discovered in the last year, which has been amazing for me, is this new paradigm which entirely complements the nutritional approach and the dietary approach and the supplementation of vitamin D and omega-3, etc. And also low-dose naltrexone. That's just as I was coming into the auditorium, I've just had the angioplasty done, should I stay all day? And I said, absolutely yes. Do everything. Let's not leave any stone unturned, because we need to accept this is a very complex disorder. We've not unravelled it. There is definitely not a immune component. There is definitely a vascular component. And we need comprehensive holistic treatment to make sure we get the best results, because the only thing that matters at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is not what the neurologist feels like, it's not what I feel like, it's what clinical improvements we can produce in the quality of people's lives. Thanks very much.